Hey, what's happening, everybody? Welcome into a brand new episode of Crossed Up. Anthony Sanfilippo's here. I'm Bob Wankel, and we are at the weekend that the Phillies welcome back to town, the Arizona Diamondbacks, and a nice little, backdrop for this series. You have the revenge series. I think everybody understands that you could beat the Diamondbacks 40-0 this weekend, and it's not going to undo what happened last October, but it's definitely an interesting matchup. Big weekend at the park starts tonight. Cole Hamels, he'll be, I guess, what are they officially retiring like his existence? It's not his number. Like, what is it?
It's the celebrating Cole Hamels retirement ceremony. It's all it is.
Very exciting.
They'll probably show some highlights. They'll bring some old players, crowd will applaud, and then he'll get behind a microphone, talk about how special it was to play in Philadelphia and how excited he is to retire a Philly. And then we get to the game.
It's like crazy. And I think it's probably just because I've seen so many of these, but this is as a fan, this was like my peak fandom. Cole Hamels, Chase Utley. I was lucky, right?
Yeah.
I don't care about this stuff at all. Like, just get to the game. I don't care.
Yeah. But you know what? I'll tell you this, Bob, because I was actually in the crowd the night that they honored Roy Halladay.
Yeah.
Now,
that was different. That was different.
I know it was different circumstances. Right. But it's when you're in the crowd and, gotta remember, like we have a little bit different feel because we get to be around these guys, right? We get to talk to these guys. To us, they're not anything special, but to the regular fan, like this is celebrity. This is the ooh-ah.
Is there anybody that you've covered as a professional and you get up in front of them and you're like, damn, I'm talking to this guy right now? Has that ever happened to you?
When I was first breaking in, I got to talk to Michael Jordan and I thought that was kind of cool. Right. But I was into it. Like, I thought it was fun. The one that I thought was a little bit more daunting was when I was not a sports writer and I was working in covering politics, and President Bush, he was president at the time, came to Delaware County to speak at a Boeing plant. And they had a press availability, and the normal traveling press is with them at all times, but we were part of the local media that was there. And so I got to be kind of part of that. And we were like, really 5 feet from the president. And it was craziness to get to ask him a question. And it was just like, I was like all weird about it. But that takes you back, right? I mean, he was running for re-election at that point. So, I mean, we're talking 2004, roughly. So yeah, that was an interesting one. But yeah, I mean, so the reality of it is I think for fans, this matters. For us, we just kind of go, yeah, okay, get to the game.
Yeah. Well, kind of looking at the game and looking at what happened this past week against the Padres. You come back. We talked about all the travel in the beginning of the week. Padres are playing pretty decent baseball right now. They actually went back home last night and had another walk-off win. They've had a ton of those. Cronenworth in the ninth beats the Brewers. I mean, beating the Padres 2 out of 3 is a totally acceptable result. It was sort of like what we've gotten from this team though lately, which is like it is not as easy right now for them as it has been maybe up until these past couple of weeks.
And I think that was kind of expected, I think, a little bit, right?
Yeah.
I mean, look, if they keep winning 2 out of 3, no matter how they win them, you're going to sit there and go, well, that's pretty good. Like, good teams win 2 out of 3, even when they're not at their best and they find a way to win. Like the game against San Diego when Nola pitched and they were down to their ninth inning and they have the comeback. Like, to me, that is a sign of a good team because they were bad for 8 innings at the plate. And then all of a sudden in the 9th inning, they were good to go. They were ready to go. And they 4 straight hits off the guy who has been the best or most lights out closer in baseball, and you win a game. And so yes, they can't do it easy, but they did it. And so that tells you just, how good of a team they really are because they can win games like that sometimes.
I totally agree. And I think you're in a spot where, look, they are missing some pieces. They're getting some pieces back. They're not at full strength, and to continue to win series is impressive. They obviously had an opportunity to sweep, and they ran into a situation against Waldron in which he was pretty good. They made him maybe look even better than he is. But I think it's an acceptable result, but in looking at it, I think it also demonstrates some of the potential issues and some of the current shortcomings they have. And like, look, Tuesday night especially, they come back, they get the walk off. Castellanos finishes it, great game, a lot of excitement. I mean, they were on pace at one point, I think midway through that game, to set a record for the most men left on base in a 9-inning game in Major League history. I mean, it was almost comical watching them not be able to push runs across the plate. Now, granted, Monday night they had the outburst. It was great, awesome. But then Tuesday night, you see that inconsistency again, and then they don't do anything on Wednesday. Like, this offense right now is definitely not firing on cylinders, or on all cylinders. I do think it's fair to say that. Then obviously on Wednesday, and these are two separate issues, and I'll let you rip on both of them. They send down Johan Rojas. You get Brandon Marsh out in center field. I thought it was fair to say that the defense of Alec Boehm and Brandon Marsh sort of were like a 1-2 knockout blow in that game to the Phillies. But I want to talk about that second part in a little bit more depth, but I'll let you go here.
Well, I want to talk about Waldron first, because I actually, a couple of guys talked about it. I actually had a one-on-one with Marsh after the game. I'm kind of stunned nobody else wanted to talk to him, considering the play in center field, which we'll get to, and I'll tell you what his response was. But both he and Stott said they've never faced a knuckleball before. And I asked Brandon Marsh, I'm like, how do you prepare for that? He says, you can't. He says, you can't do anything with the machine, and I don't know anyone who throws one. So what do you do with it? You got to try and figure it out. Well, he was awful against it. I mean, he struck out twice on the knuckleball. He had a rough day, but he wasn't alone. Like, they all struggled with it. And it was funny because the first inning, they get the bases loaded, right? And they don't get it done in the first inning. And in the first inning, Waldron was throwing a lot more of his sinkers, his cutters. Like, he was not going to the knuckleball. It was, in fact, the knuckleball which he used to get out of that inning. And then he realized, they can't figure this thing out. I'm just going to throw it a lot. And he threw it 48% of the time, which is higher than he usually throws it. So, good on him for figuring out that the Phillies had no answer for it. And he had, he was making it dance. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of a tough thing if you've not seen it before. Now, if you were to see him again, which they don't play the Padres again unless they play him in the playoffs, I would hope you have a better sense of what that thing is, right? But for one game, I can kind of give them a little bit of a pass because you've never seen that pitch before.
Are you concerned about any lingering effects? Like, is that going to screw them up going into this weekend?
No, I don't.
I saw some people talking about that. They're like, I remember back in the day, those Phillies teams that could really hit. They'd see R.A. Dickey, and it would just throw him through a loop. Like, there would be like you'd struggle, and then you would struggle after the fact, trying to recalibrate almost. So no concern there from you.
No, I don't think so. I mean, it's not usual that you get a guy who's throwing in the 70s, right? So, I mean, that's a little bit different. But I think that once you get right back into it and you get to the next pitcher and the guy's putting it up there in the 90s again, and you're like, okay, all right, this is what I'm used to. I'm comfortable. I don't think it's that much of a – it's also not next day. They've had a day off in between. I think that I'm not concerned about it.
Yeah. Let's talk about that play in center field.
Well, so here's the thing, right? And I knew it was going to just – because let me start this. Let's go to the night before.
Anthony, they should have kept Johan Rojas up, damn it.
So I'm going to take it back to the night before, because the fans on social media, this is not all fans, this is just the fans who like to express themselves behind their anonymity, for the most part. We're freaking out that Christian Pache did not rob the home run. Like, they were saying
Johan would have caught it.
He should have caught that. He took a terrible route to it, and he should have had it. And it's like, the ball landed 408 feet from home plate. The wall is 401. Yeah, he got close, but come on, man. He has to make a leaping grab at the wall and time it just perfectly to even have a shot. And he had a shot, and it just missed. It was beyond his glove by, whatever, like maybe a foot away. So that bothered me, number one. But then number two, it's like, well, Rojas would have certainly made the play. And look, they scored all those runs. Oh, that's a terrible play. And I asked Marsh about it afterwards, and he's like, look, he says, 2 outs, the runners are moving, sinking line drive. if I let it bounce in front of me, 2 runs are going to score anyway. He said, so I got to try and make the play. He said, I didn't make the play. I'm mad that I didn't make the play, but you got to, in my mind, you got to try to make the play there. Because otherwise you're conceding 2 runs because the runners are already moving. There's no way you're throwing out the second runner. He said, if you make the play, then you prevent anything from scoring. And if you don't make the play, they're only going to get 1 extra at that point. And probably the game's probably over anyway. So like the rationale behind going for it makes sense. Does Rojas get there? Probably, but there's no guarantee. I mean, there's no guarantee. I say probably more so because he plays more in than most center fielders. So he probably it's not even that he's that much faster than he's so much faster than Marsh that he would get there. It's his positioning. He starts in a little bit closer to the infield. So it probably becomes a little bit more routine of a play for him than it was for Marsh. But are we really going to sit there and say that a guy who can't hit, can't bunt, can't run the bases should be up here playing just because he would have made 1 catch that the guy who was playing center field didn't make?
Everyone reacts in the moment. I mean, that's what it is. Well, this one thing happened very shortly after a roster move was made, and therefore I now know that it was the wrong decision to make.
Right.
Like Johan Rojas probably does catch that ball. Everyone thought it. How do you not think it?
Oh, I put it out. I said, here come the takes.
Yeah.
Like I thought it too.
And that's true. Like it's true. Like he probably would have caught it, but there's larger issues at play here with Johan Rojas. And like Brandon Marsh is not a plus defensive center fielder. He's just not. We know that. The Phillies have told you that. Their actions have showed you that they would prefer not to play Brandon Marsh in center field. But the situation being what it is currently, Johan Rojas was given ample opportunity to demonstrate his ability to stay up here on merit, and he didn't do it. Now, he's gone down there. I think he was 1 for 5 in his first game. I know everyone's freaking out now because they had 4 hits the other night. I think he hit an opposite field home run, which is something that we surely did not see very much of while up here. I think that there's a world where, he goes down and makes improvements and you see him later this season, or maybe he's part of a trade package, or I think there's a lot of different outcomes here.
And I think it could be both.
Yeah.
I mean, in all honesty, I think he comes back when JT comes back.
Okay.
If you want my honest opinion, I think Rojas comes back when JT comes back. Which will be right after the All-Star break. And you see where you're at that point. I mean, David Dahl's he's struggled since his home run in London. He has
struggled. He sure has.
Yeah, he's struggled since his home run in London. But at the same time, you're not going to just abandon a guy after 20 at-bats, right? So you got to give him a little bit of run and see. But if it continues to be this bad for David Dahl, they're going to say goodbye to him.
And I think that the correct timeline is a few weeks. I mean, you give him a month. Let's see what happens here.
Right. Yeah.
They need a little bit more offensive punch. He's shown that he possesses the capability of providing that. And this is not I think when you make a move like sending Johan Rojas down, it's not, well, let's bring him back 6 days from now. Now, if somebody gets injured and it alters what you have available to you, that's different. But hey, this guy's 0 for his last 7, and Brandon Marsh didn't catch a sinking liner late in the game. And then Johan Rojas had 4 hits in AAA. Let's bring him back up now. Like, that's not how this works. This is like go down, get yourself together. Let's work on some things. Let's see if you can take a step forward, and then we'll bring you back up. So I don't think that this is something that you need to overreact to in the moment because one play happens. Now, unfortunately for the Phillies, it just feels like it always works out this way, right? Where you make a move, and then that thing that you kind of fear happening happens, it's kind of like the way it plays out. But no, I don't really think that I think that they did the right thing here. I do want to talk about a few different things, and we'll look ahead to this weekend and look ahead to this, we'll call it the rematch with the Diamondbacks.
I have a thought on that when we get to it, just by the way.
You got it. The only other thing that really stood out to me this past week, other than Kyle Schwarber, the numbers again, it's unbelievable. Like, welcome to June.
You can't even explain it. You can't even explain it anymore. It's crazy.
6 homers this month. His OPS is over 1,000. He's now projected to hit 37 home runs this season. I would probably bet that he gets over 40 based on the way that this thing's trending. hitting in like 250. His OPS is creeping up into the mid 800s. Like, this is the best version of Kyle Schwarber that we've seen since he's been in Philadelphia.
Yes.
It's really easy to feel good about him right now. The other big takeaway, and I think it totally got lost in the shuffle this week, and maybe the most important thing for this team long term to me, was Christopher Sanchez rebounding after, I don't want to say it was a concerning or an eye-opening start against the Red Sox, but he was not himself in that game. And you just always wonder with, and I guess it's a little bit of a mischaracterization to call him a younger guy, but he doesn't have a tremendously large sample of starts. And you just always kind of wonder when a guy that you don't really know for sure, he starts to struggle and you go, oh, could that be something that really sets him back? Could he start to have doubts about what he's doing? Could it throw him off his progression? And it didn't. Like, he just comes back. He goes 7 innings. He only walks one batter. He was phenomenal, I thought. And it's just like another, not that you ever want to see a guy struggle, but I thought it was a really important test for him to pass. Come back and throw a really good game, pitch deep into a game against a solid lineup with some pretty interesting right-handed hitters, too.
Yeah,
I thought it was
question.
a very encouraging start for him.
It was a great start for him, and it was a great rebound. It's exactly what you needed from him to do, because even if he had an okay start or mediocre start, like came back, wasn't as bad as he was in Boston, but let's say he went 6 innings, 3 runs, 7 hits, 3 walks, like, it was okay. Like, they would still win the game, but okay, it was still okay, just okay. Then maybe you sit there and go, well, that's 2 starts in a row that weren't great. Let's hope that he has the rebound next. But now you sit there and go, well, not only did he rebounded and had one of his better starts of the season against a pretty good lineup. So that's a real boon for the Phillies, because if you could get Sanchez to be that consistent, where he has that odd bad start like any pitcher does, like Zach Wheeler had earlier in the week, right? Anybody has a bad start. Those happen. But if you can be the consistent pitcher that he was, I guess that was Monday night, Tuesday night, whatever night that was, Monday night.
Monday.
Then that's awesome. And then you pretty much have 4 guys who are giving you that on a regular basis. They're going to have the odd bad start, but for the most part, they're really, really good.
Any other takeaways from this week? Anything that you want to touch on? You want to talk about Aaron Nola not being able to get through the 6th inning? Vintage Nola. I saw a lot of those tweets the other night, too.
I know.
Here we go. Vintage Nola. How do you not get through that inning? I said, okay. It wasn't a great inning.
It wasn't a great inning. I think he made 2 really bad pitches in the inning. Obviously, the home run is one of them, and the double was the other one. Those are pitches you can't. And yet, look, when we asked him after the game, like, what happened, he said, "I can't walk Peralta."
Oh,
it's what you texted me.
The text message that I sent you. I was like, well, the home run was kind of bullshit. Like, it just sort of carried. I said, okay, I can live with that, but you can't walk Peralta there. Come on.
It was the first thing he said. He was most mad. He was more mad about walking Peralta than he was about giving up the home run.
I have it right here. Walking Peralta in that spot is a joke. And you said, I feel like he can't get this guy out, is what you said to me.
Well, because he can't. Because if you go back and look, I think Peralta's batting over 500 against Aaron Nola in his career, which is crazy. But yeah, other than that, though, it was a pretty good start. I'll tell you a little funny story. So Kevin Cooney was working his first game this year for the AP, because he's teaching nowadays. So
he posted on Facebook.
Yeah, so he was excited to be back, and the AP guy sits right in front of us. And I look, and Cooney's not the biggest Aaron Nola guy. And I looked at him, I said, well, not only are you coming back for an Aaron Nola start, you're coming back for an Aaron Nola start, and he's going to throw a no-hitter. So we're into after this, first inning, I looked over, I said, 24 more to go. Well, then he gets through the second. By the time he gets through the third, Cooney is staring daggers at me because he doesn't want to be – for the AP, you have to update when a pitcher's pitching a no-hitter. Here's some inside baseball stuff. You have to update your story every half inning starting in the 6th inning. So it's a lot of work for the reporter covering the game, okay? And so it's into the 4th, and it gets into the 5th, and it's like, oh, man, here we go. Because he was not only was he throwing a no-hitter, he was perfect, right? And so Cooney was so mad at me for that. But then finally, he gives up the hit, and it's like, I think it was Donovan Solano
Is that the guy then that had the audible cheer when that happened? Is that
yeah. Yes, it was. It was. By the way, talk about a guy. It's very rare that you have a guy who's been in the sport for 13 years who is as bland and mediocre a player as Donovan Solano is.
Yeah.
But yet he's somehow made a career
around
out of being a guy who could play multiple positions and back up everywhere. It's kind of crazy. But the point was I thought Nola's start was really good until walking Peralta, the home run and the double, and then it gets, gives up the 3 runs there in the 6th inning. Not great. But on the whole, it wasn't a bad start. They need to hit for him. They didn't hit. They left 12. I think it's a different start if he's not pitching high leverage every inning because the team can't score. They actually ended up leaving 14 runners on base, which is a stupid stat. You get dinged for the players that are left on base after a walk-off.
Yeah.
So it was really only 12.
Did you see that they're giving hitters the double now on the walk-offs? Like Castellanos has had 2.
Well, that was a ground rule. That was a ground rule.
Yeah, that was a ground rule. The one against the Milwaukee, though,
they gave him a double. That was a weird one.
On it. Yeah, they're giving you that extra base now.
It was a weird one. But yeah, no, that one the other night was a ground rule, so it had to be a double.
So here you go. We have about 15 minutes, and there's 2 things I want to do. I want to preview this weekend. I want to talk about this weekend, and then I want to play Welcome to my sports book. I'm going to open up the sports book odds for you, and I want you to make some bets with me.
Okay.
All right. So first, here we go. Here come the Diamondbacks. They have been pretty mediocre this season. They have played better in June. They're 12-6 this month. They've kind of benefited from a softer schedule, and they've taken advantage of it, and they're kind of climbing out of what was a really slow start, and they're very much now back in the thick of the playoff race. This is a team that only won 84 regular season games last year, so it's not like there's some world beater that has taken a huge step back. This is the Diamondbacks. They're pretty much a 500 team that can get you on any given night. They come into Citizens Bank Park. I will just hit the rewind button and just tell you, I just remember vividly a couple things about late last October. I remember thinking to myself, there's no way that the Phillies don't go to the World Series. I think everyone else felt like that. I do remember, however, walking into the stadium the night of Game 6 saying, this feels off to me. I don't like the way this feels. And then they forced Game 7. And I remember walking into the stadium ahead of Game 7, and I said, this feels like a win. Like the Phillies win this game tonight. There is no way on earth that they don't win. I thought the energy in the stadium was awesome. It just felt like when you know, you know. And it was one of those nights for me when I came in there and thought to myself, yeah, they're going to the World Series tonight. And you fast forward a few hours later, and I've never seen, and not that I'm a veteran reporter, I've been doing it for 5 years. I've just never seen anything like what I saw after the game in the clubhouse, talking to multiple guys. I mean, it was bad. It was tough to watch. Not a surprise, but I kind of bring that up to set the stage for what happens this weekend. Philly show up to the park today with a little extra juice for this one, or is this one of 162 tonight?
So I think that this is the take I wanted to have on it. I think that the drama around the return of the Diamondbacks is incredibly fan driven, incredibly talk radio driven. It's not a big deal. Mm-hmm. It really isn't. And someone asked Rob about it after the at his press conference the other day, and he was like, "It's different year, it's different team. Like there's no big thing." That said, I do think that there are players who want to, and the Phillies have really kind of made this whole season being about, stepping on everybody on the way to a championship. And if they get an opportunity to bury the Diamondbacks a little bit this weekend, I don't think that they would be too disappointed with it. When you look at it, all 3 Diamondbacks pitchers that are starting have ERAs hovering around 6.
Yeah.
So this is a weekend for the Phillies to take advantage of that and really kind of have a game like they had Monday against the Padres, where they are really just hit after hit after hit, or get on base and drive in runs. Like, I think this is an opportunity to work some pitchers. Montgomery's usually a good pitcher, not been good.
He struggled this season. He's been bad. I mean, he comes in with an ERA at 6, and he had his best start of the season last time out. And you say, he's riding a big wave of momentum. Well, then you look and see who he pitched against, and it was the White Sox. And you say, okay. He goes 5 innings, actually. It doesn't even get into the 6th. 4 hits, no earned runs, 2 walks, 7 strikeouts. So I guess maybe in his mind, hey, it's a good starting point. Maybe he can build off of that going into tonight's start, but a little bit of a different situation for him. Henry's been brutal, who you'll see on Saturday. And then Slade Ciccone has been terrible for them. And if you look at the advanced metrics, I mean, he is bottom 25% across the board. I mean, so they are getting 3 very favorable matchups this weekend. I know that it is fan driven, this revenge spot, and here come the Diamondbacks, and it's something. I mean, of course it is, but I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Like, if you're a Phillies fan this weekend, you go, I want to see them kick this team's ass.
Yeah, but I don't. What I'm trying to, my take on it is this: if I had to pick the series right now, I say they win 2 out of 3, right? Because that's kind of what they do. After the loss, I don't want to hear, "Here we go again." They shouldn't lose to this team. That drives me nuts. It just drives me nuts, Bob. It really does. I mean, I mean, a lot of times in these games, you expect them to win.
You almost come into these series, though, and it doesn't even matter who they're playing. You expect them to sweep teams. And you know that that's ridiculous. Like, it is very hard to sweep teams. But when you played the stretch of baseball that they did for as long as they did, it almost just became a norm.
Yeah.
But I mean, beating the Padres 2 out of 3, good. You win 2 out of 3 against the Diamondbacks this weekend, good.
Yeah.
But, with the Braves starting to wake up a little bit now, the lead is, if you want to say, down to 7. I think people are have that in the rear view mirror. They're kind of looking behind themselves, looking over their shoulders a little bit.
We'll see how the Braves do this weekend.
Yeah, we will see how the Braves do this weekend. But it's interesting. I actually think that the more interesting narrative into tonight's game is at the return of the Diamondbacks. It's Jordan Montgomery versus Taijuan Walker. It's the guy that everybody wanted the Phillies to go out and get up against Taijuan Walker, the guy who they want to replace. And I don't know. I mean, Taijuan Walker's been better his last 2 times out. I mean, he gave them a chance against Baltimore, and he was very good against the Mets. He is riding some momentum into this start, but from just a human standpoint, I want you to tell me that this following statement by me is incorrect, because I think a lot of people feel this way. As a competitor, if you've got anything, you want to go out, if you're Taijuan Walker tonight, who, by the way, you didn't get an opportunity to pitch against last season, which you weren't thrilled about. Mm-hmm. So you're Taijuan Walker. You didn't get a chance to throw against this team. Now you're staring across from me in the other dugout, the guy that everybody wanted this team to go out and sign. If you got it in you, you go out and you perform tonight.
I think he showed a little bit of that against the Mets. Obviously, it was against his former team on the national stage, and pitched a really good game against them in London. And I think that he has a little bit of that in him, right? Doesn't necessarily mean it's going to translate. His splitter has been not good this year. It's just really not good. And unless he can get his splitter to be located well and really have it be an effective pitch, he is just a guy who you cross your fingers and hope he gets you through 5 innings and keeps you in the game. If he gets his splitter to be effective, he can be better than that. But right now, it's not there, and his velocity still isn't back. And I don't think it's ever going to be back. I think his velocity is what it is, right?
And they keep mentioning that, though. I think didn't Rob reference this recently?
Yeah,
his velocity just isn't. I'm like, oh, are you expecting it to return?
Yes, I don't know when did you think it's been down for a year? When do you think it's coming back?
Up to 95 yet? I mean,
it's just like when the dog runs away from home, and a year later, you're like, well, maybe he'll still find his way back. No, sorry, ain't going to happen.
Sounds sad, but that was good. I like that.
But that's what it is.
That in your story tonight. If he doesn't pitch well,
yeah, exactly. I'll write that tonight.
I mean, look. I mention this every time that he pitches, but God, the odds makers hate him. What are the Phillies ever aren't they 25-4 over the rest 29 home games or something like that?
And one of them wasn't even at home. I don't think. I think it was that counts the London game. Counts as a home game.
And they're minus 130 tonight against a pitcher who has a 6 ERA on an under 500 team. Minus 130. God, the odds makers hate this guy. They do.
Yeah,
I mean, they hate him. which I think is a nice transition into what I want to talk about here. Oh, by the way, I mean, like Zach Wheeler, like you better bring it tomorrow, right? Like I want to see the rebound start, and then I trust Sanchez on Sunday. So I think if the Phillies don't sweep, it probably is because of tonight. But come on, Taiwan, like come on, buddy, where are you at? Let's go. Look, a couple quick things here. I want you to step into the sports book, and I want to talk about the National League MVP race, which shifted this past week with Mookie Betts going down. He's actually now behind Alec Boehm in the MVP odds.
Really?
I believe Boehm, last I looked, had the 9th best odds at plus 3,000. Betts is 10th now at plus 3,500. How about that?
Nuts. That's not. I would still take Mookie Betts.
Okay. Well, so at the top of the board, you have Shohei Ohtani plus 140. Yeah. You have Bryce Harper plus 300.
Yeah.
Tatis plus 1,000. Azuna plus 1,000. Real quick, Bryce Harper's on pace for 31 doubles, 37 homers, 105 runs batted in, 101 walks. You almost feel like he has not hit that stretch yet where he's gone nuts. Is Bryce Harper at plus 300 odds to win the NL Cy Young, or I'm sorry, the NL MVP a good bet?
Yes, because I think ultimately, when Ohtani's won in the American League, he's won because he did two things really well, right? He hit really well and he pitched really well. And so you looked at it and said, that's the most valuable player because of everything that he's doing. Now he's just a designated hitter. So he's not even, he's a great hitter. And he should be in the conversation. I'm not trying to poo-poo that. But at the same time, Harper does more for his team. He plays really good first base too. Like he's an excellent first baseman. I think that the story for Harper, to me, more so, should he be an MVP favorite in my mind? Yes. But here's a guy that's going to have a shot at a Gold Glove in his first full year playing a position that he'd never played before. Like that to me says something. He's really good at first base. So yes, in my mind, he should be the MVP. And I think ultimately he will be, because I think Ohtani is going to have a little bit, he's not going to have a major drop off. He's a hell of a player, but I think he's going to have a little bit of a drop off not having Mookie in the lineup with him. I do think there'll be a slight.
He's got some work to do. Like I will say, like I can't fault odds makers for making him the favorite right now. He's on pace for 44 homers, 112 runs batted in,
and everybody wants to bet it.
Yeah,
everybody wants to bet Ohtani, of course. Yeah, of course. There's no question he should be the odds-on favorite.
OPS over 1,000 right now. So
I still think Harper is going to get him.
Okay, interesting. All right, let's kick it over to the Cy Young odds. Ranger Suarez has the best odds right now, plus 300.
Crazy.
Coming in behind him is Zach Wheeler at plus 450, Glass now at plus 450, Imanaga plus 550. Those are your top four guys. Who would you bet on right now?
Zach Wheeler.
Okay.
Yeah, look, and Ranger impresses me with every start. His last start was a great start. It was, even though they lost the game, he pitched really well, and it really impresses me that he's able to do it. Look, 1.75 ERA through 15 starts is fabulous. It's fantastic. So like, I don't want to make it seem like I think there's going to be regression, but I think there has to be, like almost has to be a little bit, even if it regresses back to 2.15, I think it's going to regress a little bit. Whereas I think Wheeler, even though he got lit up on Sunday in Baltimore, I think he's the more consistent pitcher over time. I think he's more of a workhorse, and I think that he ultimately. And remember, I was a guy beginning of the year. One of my stick your neck out things was Suarez.
Very good. We will be playing that audio. If this keeps up, we will be playing that audio frequently by you. Yes.
Right. So I was big on Suarez coming into the year, and I'd love to see him do it. And I'd love for it to be a race between him and Wheeler and be just a lot of fun for us to talk about. But I think ultimately, I think the best bet is Zach Wheeler.
Okay. Two more quick ones for you here. I know you think the Phillies are going to win the division. Are you confident enough to bet $290 to win 100 on the Phillies to win the NL East?
That's tough odds.
Braves are plus 225.
It's just tough odds. I think they're going to win, but I don't think it's a value bet. Like I'm all about finding value bets. What's the point in betting that much money? The only thing that you're really going to risk is the loss there. Like,
you worried at all about Atlanta right now? Kind of waking up a little bit? I saw WIP ask that question. Are you worried about the Braves?
No, am I worried? Look, the Braves are good. They're a good team, and they're going to find their way a little bit. I just don't think that the Phillies are bad enough to collapse and lose it. This isn't the Mets a couple years
Are you
ago.
worried about the Mets? Grimace. I'm tired of looking at Grimace. I'm tired of seeing that. They got the Cubs this weekend at Wrigley. Like, come on, Cubs. Come on, buddy. Like, let's go.
Yeah.
Let's do it. Quintana versus Imanaga today. Like, come on.
Yeah.
Enough of this Grimace thing. All right. Last one here. World Series odds. Dodgers plus 320. Yankees plus 450. Phillies, third best odds, plus 600. Orioles plus 800.
Both the Phillies and Orioles have they're great bets.
Yeah.
Both great bets. I would consider betting both of them knowing you can win both.
Yeah.
Win and knowing you can get one of them, right? I mean, like I would bet if you put $100 on each, you're betting 200 to either triple your money or quadruple your money.
Mike, do I have the red colored glasses on or what? Like, are the Dodgers better than the Phillies?
No.
Like,
but again, it's all about the market, right? It's all about who's gonna. People are going to bet the Dodgers. People are going to bet the Yankees, and so therefore that's why their odds are what they are. The smart bettors will realize that the two better teams are the Phillies and the Orioles.
Yeah, I still love the Orioles to win the AL East. I do. I mean, Garrett Cole was good. Like, he's back. That helps. They've gotten great starting pitching to begin with. But man, like I just think the Orioles are going to do it. All right, look, that kind of does it for my thing. I know we're on a little bit of a time crunch here. I don't know if you have any time or you want to just kill it here or what.
I really don't have time, but I want to throw one last thing just because I do it every show, just to see if you saw it. Did you see the video that was put out with Chris Guccione and the Mariners?
Yes.
Like, how great is that?
Yeah.
where he admits that he's having a bad day. He had to wake up at 3:30 in the morning. He's apologized.
I appreciate that. There needs to be more of that.
It was so good.
Well,
it was like Scott Service is yelling at him, "You're better than this, Chris." And he's like, sometimes you have a bad day.
I like that. It's like the most likable umpire moment of the last decade.
Oh, it was so good. It was so good. And John Boy did a hell of a job breaking that down. The girl behind home plate was sensational. Like, it was, I recommend go out, find that John Boy video.
It's that and then the ass in the jackpot, right?
Yeah.
Like, those are the two, like, hey, you know what? Umpires, they're people too. I like these guys.
Love it.
All right, that'll do it for the latest episode of Crossed Up. We'll be back on Monday. For Anthony Sanfilippo, I'm Bob Wank. We'll talk to you soon.